Alright. Can you pass me that? Let's flip it up and see what it says for December 4th.
How do you feel recording right now?
I'm feeling good recording right now.
Do you feel like you can easily speak and...
Yeah. I'm clear-minded. I have a cup of tea. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling a bit nervous. I feel like I want to make sure that I'm being my true self and not being afraid of the camera or anything.
Also, the more you worry about it, the worse it'll get. So don't even worry about it.
Yeah, I want to get comfortable and as if the camera doesn't really exist.
It doesn't matter.
I wrote some notes down from our conversation the other day, and I think the conversation that we had is what inspired me to do this today.
Yeah.
So what I wrote down is, the world is blinded by money and power and a lack of inner reflection. I feel that people that run a lot of workplaces, they don't have the best intentions, and we see that in all sorts of workplaces, including in like wellness and holistic spaces. And I often find that these people are like passive aggressive, and they're mainly focused on themselves, and they lack a lot of empathy. And I think with that, the reason why I'm inspired to have this conversation is because I think it's so important to follow your intuition when people are playing mind games with you, because I feel like these mind games really make you doubt yourself. And your intuition is your best guidance in these times, and I really struggle with that. And it's really important who you surround yourself with, I think, overall. Yeah, that's what I'd written down, and maybe that's a good way to get the conversation going.
That pretty much encapsulates, if anything, the kind of things that we're talking about, so I suppose we should just maybe expand on them a little bit.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
Is there anything that comes to your mind?
Yeah, the whole game with the intuition. I think nowadays we're completely discouraged, like through media and through everything, to not follow any sort of intuition. We've been led to believe that there is no such thing as anything physical they can trust. You know, like this whole belief in like science as a religion, like, you know, like kind of like trust the science, don't research, don't look into it, don't do any kind of stuff.
Don't question anything.
Don't question anything in science. Only like don't question anything and just trust the experts, basically.
Yeah.
So, just, I mean, as a rule of thumb, if people tell you not to question anything, you should probably, like, that should be a red flag to begin with. But I feel like intuitively is such a thing that it's absolutely there for you to use and to be guided by. But you've been led to believe that it doesn't. First of all, it actually doesn't exist in your body. No, it absolutely does. It's right there. You
mean like in the sense of we've sort of been like told not to believe in the spiritual body and the power of the body. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. Yeah. We've completely, because like mentally, if you strip people of self-belief and the belief that they're actually protected spiritually and physically and everything, if you even just strip them of that mentally, if you make them believe that they're not protected in any way, shape or form, and you're at the mercy of everything around you and you have no control over anything, much less yourself, then you've kind of broken down the spirit of the human, you know.
Interesting.
So you strip away the ability to have any sort of intuition, that they have no guidance. Like, no one has any guidance. No one knows where to go. No one knows what to do.
Yeah.
You know, because they don't feel it here. Like, you've been just told to numb it out. With everything, with anything we do. With media consumption, with, like, abusing all sorts of fucking substances, you know?
Yeah, that's such a good point. And I think for anybody that is trying to reconnect to their intuition, I think only then do you realise, when you try to start reconnecting with your intuition, that you realise how faded out it's been, and you look around you and you're like, oh wow, this feels like it's done on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm so disconnected on purpose.
Oh, yeah. 100%. I can't count on one hand the amount of times that I felt something was wrong, and intuitively I felt that like I shouldn't do this and that, and I went and I did it, and it was just not good. It wasn't good for me. So imagine that, like, that's the kind of mode that, I mean, I still go through that here and there, but that's the kind of mode that people, like, are living through every single day. They completely ignore and suppress it. I suppose no one's asking for a revolution of people to just go and try to convince other people to, like, believe in their intuition or whatever, but really you just have to do what's best for you and think about your body and what you feel. And then if everyone was to do that, then there'd be no issues of conflict or of anything, really.
What do you mean? There'd be no issues of conflict?
Conflict between people, conflict between like difficult situations, like miscommunication. You know, if people just trusted their gut and acted on it, if everyone did that. If
But I
just...
I think as gut and intuition may be like a different thing. I think intuition is more like it captures. I don't know. Maybe they are interlinked. I'm not too sure.
I see them as the same thing.
Yeah.
Gut and intuition. I think it's just, if anything, they're maybe two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, because intuition is here. Like, this is where your pineal gland is. And then gut, it's like here, isn't it? Like, where's your gut?
Yeah,
Gut feeling. Actually,
yeah,
you can tell I'm not good at my gut feeling, and it's still something that I'm trying to tap into my body.
Because you know where it is.
I'm not too sure where it is.
Yeah. I'm actually not too sure. I don't know about intuition. I don't know about anything about this.
Yeah, well, this is where our intuition is. Our pineal gland is where our intuition lays.
According to what?
According to, like, old beliefs. Like, for example, in yoga, we're taught that our intuitive senses are here. Your third eye is where your intuition is.
Right, yeah.
So I actually went off and did a bit of research to try and better understand if there is a connection between intuition and your gut. And it's so obvious because our brains and our bodies are connected and they send signals to each other. So it's no different when it comes to your intuition and your gut. You know, they're connected. So our gut feeling is often influenced by emotions and by past experiences. And it's like this physical sensation that we get in the body. Whereas intuition comes from the unconscious mind and it comes from outside of ourselves. And within science, when we say like outside of ourselves, science refers to like our own perception, like the experiences that are outside of ourselves. But within the spiritual world, when we think of experiences outside of ourselves, they can also be spiritual experiences or like this higher communication to this like higher force. So anyway, there is a connection between the two, and I'll continue on to the rest of the conversation.
Yeah, I guess we were talking about how like we're taught not to follow our intuition. Like, this is not something that we're taught in school, or we're not taught to follow. I mean, I think more and more we're seeing it in schools where kids are taught to follow their guts. And I think I've seen online, like, oh, like, they sing different songs and it's like, oh, and if it feels wrong in my tummy or whatever, it's like a no.
Mm-hmm.
So they're taught things like that. So I guess we are seeing a bit more of that in school, particularly, like, when children are quite young, which is good. But I think overall, like, intuition and following that part of yourself isn't something we're like encouraged at all. Or like, you know, in the workplace, like most workplaces that you're in, unless you're doing like something different that most people aren't doing, intuition isn't like, it's not like, oh, what's your gut feeling on this, or like what does your intuition tell you?
No, you have to back it up against some other type of metric. The gut intuition, or the gut or your intuition is never like a valid. That's why I chose to do it.
Yeah, although I will say, and I don't think that, I'm not sure that I told you yet, but in the course that I'm doing at the moment, there was different ways to share your opinion with the group when we were doing group work, and one of them was like, I forgot what it was called, but it was like, it was your intuition, and they called it, like, the lecturer did say, that's more where you're like intuitive self, like that's more your intuition. And I thought that was interesting. And I find that the course that I'm doing at the moment is sort of this like modern way of working and of living and existing. And so it feels like we are kind of moving in that direction, but at the same time, while there's some of us are being pulled in that direction, I think there's still so much out there that's trying to numb us and to not listen to these deeper bodily senses that are there.
And you were talking about the kids being taught those kind of things from young. I can't imagine like the power that you would feel and the trust you'd have in yourself if you knew, and if you developed it from such a young age, you know, this like one-to-one deep connection of like knowing in your gut like really well, knowing how to listen really well. Like, that's an incredible skill to have, and like we don't even start with that.
No.
You know, most adults don't even, like, they get to like very mature and they have no intuition or gut feeling.
Yeah.
Well, they do, but it's just buried,
very
very
just
deep.
Numbed out, really.
Social media has really done a number on us when it comes to this kind of thing.
Yeah, it's so distracting from the body.
Yeah.
I find it, I think, especially as of lately, I've been a bit more detached from social media, and so when I go back to it, I remember one time somebody saying to me that it's like a portal, and I literally feel like I'm entering this random portal with like all this random information, and I'm completely taken from the present moment and from my body.
Yeah.
And I've just entered something that's just filling my mind, and I'm like, I'm not even here. And I've just been feeling that. I know that, like, you know, people talk about how it doesn't make you present, how all that, but I've actually been feeling it in such a deep way.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that like has come up for you at any point? Is that something you relate to?
All the time. All you have to do is take a little social media break and, like you were saying, go back to it and you'll just notice.
Yeah.
The issue is when you do go back to it, it only takes a day, maybe an hour or two, and you're right back in it as if you never were out to begin with. It so easily drags you in. It's so pernicious that you should either like completely be off any sort of social media or just accept that that's the way it is and try to find some way to work around it. And at least for myself, I haven't found like a workaround.
Yeah, I definitely don't know. I don't think it's meant to work with you, really. Although I do think if you can get quite disciplined about it and you can be mindful of the time that you're, which is really hard. Like I'm saying this knowing how hard it is. But I think there is something to be said. Like I often see things that really inspire me on social media, and I often see like stories that remind me what's important and to come back into the body and to come back into the present while I'm trying to numb myself out with social media, and they're like, oh no, you know, suddenly they remind me, they bring me back to myself. I don't know if that's a wrong way of looking at it, but I do find that sometimes.
They bring you back to yourself. What do you mean?
Yeah, so like, you know, sometimes if I'm trying to distract myself and I go on social media, I find that I see something that reminds me what's important. It reminds me what's important in my day. It reminds me what's important. It reminds me of the present. It reminds me to come back to my body. It reminds me to come back to the depth, to the truth in the body. And I think because I follow a lot of those kind of things, although social media isn't great and like I end up scrolling, I still find that yes, sometimes it's good.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of like things that motivated me while I'm on social media. Not motivated me, inspired me.
Inspired you, yeah. One thought that I had was that even with these things that inspire you, because I identify with that, because I've been on social media scrolling through Instagram and I see a reel, I'm like, wow, that's incredible. I want to go out there and create something. I want to do something. You know? But I find that as quickly as that feeling comes, it's as quickly as that it goes away.
Yeah.
It's like even those feelings are like completely reduced to like a fraction of the feeling that, for example, you would feel when you go watch a movie. If you go watch a really good movie, like the amount of inspiration I feel, you'd feel that movie a week later. And then like let alone a really good book that kind of like fills your heart and really makes you want to like do better, or inspires you to like create, or inspires you to do whatever it is. Pursue a passion that you have. That's far more powerful than a short, you know. But that's and that's the funny thing is like all the feelings that it does create for you, they're really short lived within you. I was just thinking about that just there. Like how often do you find that inspiration lasts after like you see in a short for yourself?
That's true. It might last maybe that day. But I do think that subconsciously, like even something I seen yesterday, like we were having a conversation earlier, like it still impacted me today, subconsciously though. So I feel like it's still there, but yeah, it's not at the forefront of my mind, and I think it's just because it's an overload of information. It's not going to be at the forefront of my mind. And
it's like it's a part of the information that you got in on the day, which is like you got so much more during the day because you were scrolling, like loads more things were coming in. You know, that one stuck out, but it's still lost in between all of this other shit, you know, which is a shame.
It is a shame because that means even though you might create something beautiful on a short, at the end of the day, it's a short.
It's a short, and it's going to get not lost.
Yeah.
It's going to be appreciated by the people, but like, I suppose it's in the medium itself, the fact that it's a short, it'll just, and the volume that you're consuming, you know, it just does it a disservice to begin with, just by the nature of the thing.
Although I think if you have something to share and like something that you're really working towards, I do find I follow people who like I might have seen a short that they did, and anytime when I think of like, oh, like what inspires me, I go back to that person. I'm like, I remembered, although it was only a short. I agree, but I also disagree, because when people keep having a similar message, or they have like kind of a feeling that they're trying to create, I feel like you follow those people for that, at least I do, for that reason, and then they keep creating that feeling, and so the person becomes the thing, and their art becomes the thing that stays with me and in my mind. You know?
Yeah. I do agree, and that's there's something to be said about filling your feed with just the people that actually inspire you. You know, like following people and only seeing the videos of the people that actually inspire you. I think there's something to be said about that. I think that's good.
Oh, good.
There's something to be said.
I was like, oh no.
Some good to be said about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think if you surround yourself with people on your feed who, like, they're going the same direction, or, like, not the same, but, like, they're on this journey as you are. But yeah, you're kind of going on this journey with those people, and I think it's pretty important to, like, be mindful of, like, the other noise.
Yeah, and to kind of go back to the original topic of where we had the conversation is like the kind of people that you have around you.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, on online for sure, but physically the kind of people and friends that you have around you, what kind of impact do they have on you?
Yeah.
What is their what is the energy bring to you? That's something you have to ask yourself as well.
I think friends is a topic of its own as the people that you let in, but also I think what I was referring to at the beginning is like people you let in and you choose to let in through like workplaces or like, yeah, I guess that kind of area, more like workplaces or in the world, or like people who you don't really have to interact with but you do anyway. And again, friends fall under that category, but I think friends is just a whole different topic.
Yeah.
And for me it's just more about like I had an experience, because what motivated me is I had an experience this week where I could have said yes to someone, but I didn't like how they were communicating and something felt really wrong, and I could have just chose to ignore past that, but instead I chose to listen to my intuition and I said no.
Now I want to add that, like, not only did you say no, but you've already invested time and effort into this thing.
Yeah.
And like, you know, because you spent time and effort, like even more so, you would think that you'd be even more inclined to be like, oh sure, I'll just say yes because I've already spent so much time looking at this, doing this, like, you know, engaging in this thing. And then turn around to be like, actually, my gut's telling me I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't surround myself with or be around this person or this situation. This, like, I've seen this before. I've seen multiple times where it's leading me. I'm not going to let it go there again.
Yeah.
That's incredible, you know, that's the whole point as to why you have gut and intuition to begin with. That's why it's there.
Thank you so much for saying that. I really appreciate that, and I really like appreciate how you see me, but it is something that I really struggle with, you know. I really struggle with like trusting that part of myself and saying like, oh, I should listen to this, because I'm more like, oh, like I think part of me was like, oh, maybe I could just give it a shot until this certain point and see how it goes then, and then say no, instead of like just cutting it short and just being like, no, I know this story. I know where this kind of person goes. I know where this is going.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard. Yeah, it is about listening to your intuition more and more. And now that I've seen it, I can't unsee it, you know?
Yeah.
What interests you in that area? Because I know something that like you've shared wasn't apart from the book that you've been reading.
Yeah. So,
but like, what part of it interests you in that?
In this book, the bad guys are like this organization.
What book is that?
So it's this book called.
If you want to share.
Yeah. It's this book called That Hideous Strength written by C.S. Lewis. So it's kind of like a sci-fi, not very strong sci-fi themes in it, but incredibly philosophical. The underline is very religious and kind of moral, and just an incredibly hopeful book. And it talks about this organization of people, and they're supposed to be like the bad guys, you know, the ones that are under the evil influence. And the way they communicate and the way that they kind of drag people into it is through withholding information, through not even outright lying, but just withholding information. And every time anyone asks a direct question, they're like, we don't really talk like that here. We don't really like appreciate that around here. And you have to talk a certain way when you're with them. They're like incredibly well educated and well read and all these kind of things, so they have the language to be able to just talk around you, to do like, you know, laps around you while you're just trying to catch up and think about what the hell are they just talking about, you know. So the use of language and the use of like being disingenuous by being vague and never giving you a clear answer and kind of keeping you in suspense and keeping you like your feet aren't on the ground as a way of control, as a way of like kind of doubting yourself, questioning, like am I doing the right thing or whatever? Or maybe I'm not doing enough. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand it. Maybe I'm not smart enough to engage with this and that, you know. Whereas it's a legitimate tactic that like people use, you know. You can make the argument that like it's just a science fiction book. It's a fiction book. It's not real, you know. But in reality, fiction and science fiction can speak more about truth than real, actual history does on a day to day. Like you see it time and time again. Most fiction and science fiction talks about that. So I found it incredibly clear. And when he told me the story about this person that was like being very vague with you, not really answering the question that you just outright asked, and they were just kind of going around it, not really answering, and just kind of making you feel like discombobulated, you know.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound right. That literally sounds like some sort of tactic. Whether they do it on purpose or not, it really makes no difference. It's just the thought that like they're not being clear with you. They're being vague. They think they're too important, they're too smart, whatever it is that they're it's going on in their head.
Yeah, who
you know?
knows?
And it's not right. And your gut instinct just clicked in, and you were like, okay, right, you know. And this is before I even made any parallel and said that it reminded me of this thing. You just felt that because you did. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, yeah, and that really resonated. And I think whatever C.S. Lewis was doing, like he took that and those kind of tactics of treating people from real life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think they're so evident for me in, as I said at the beginning, like in corporations. Like the corporate world is full of that. It's like full of keeping you in suspense, not telling you exactly what's happening or what they're doing. They're like kind of withholding information on purpose, and it feels like a tactic. And that to me is like, that was very weird for me to see in the corporate world, because to me it felt like a learned tactic. To me it felt like somebody taught them how to speak like that, and that to me is really worrying, you know.
And the funny thing is, like, they're not taught as if it's like a course. It's like
Yeah.
no, they emulate each other, you know. Like whoever's like a junior in whatever position, they learn that their manager treats them like that, so they work their way through the corporation, and then they're like, well, to be a manager I have to emulate what they're doing, so then they become the same type of person. They talk the same way.
Yeah.
You know, so it just kind of like it's like a culture. It's a culture of
Culture.
Yeah. So that's when you apply to a company. That's culture. That's a culture they talk about.
Yeah, but I also wonder. yeah.
I have a great culture in this company.
You want to tell me anything about your culture?
What's like the culture like?
What's the
You guys,
culture like
lie to
here?
each other all the time.
It's wild.
Yeah.
And it's funny how such a facade, like those interviews are, and talking to these people are, like everybody's putting on a facade.
Like, what's the point? Why can't you just do away with it if it's all facade anyway?
Yeah.
I know.
You know, I
What's
know.
the difference?
Yeah, I think that's what takes the heart out of the human, the passion,
Right.
the humanity out of the human, because we've built, we've sort of built it around like that. But I wanted to say,
it's more confusion. It's creating more confusion around your gut feeling, around what's real and what's the truth. It's creating smoke and fog so you can't see through it.
Yeah.
And we'll guess what happens when that's the case. It's just evil prevails. Not good things happen between people.
Like that, but also I think people just lose sight of themselves. They just tend to lose this deep part of themselves.
Yeah.
They just let that go, and you kind of just become an eggshell.
Yeah.
You're not the full person.
Yeah.
You become fragmented. It confuses the human as well.
Yeah,
I think.
and it makes you vulnerable. Again, vulnerability is not a bad thing inherently, but bad ideas can take a hold of vulnerable people, unfortunately.
Say again?
Bad ideas can take a hold of people that are vulnerable, that are fragmented.
But what do you mean?
Because like when you're vulnerable, you can I feel like that's when you're most open, and you can be hurt or healed very deeply, you know.
Yeah.
So even more so, it really matters the type of company that you keep around you, and like choosing not to engage with certain types of people over others.
Yeah, in places where you can really say no, if you can, if you have the means to say no, of course.
Exactly.
People don't always have the means to say no.
Yeah.
But if you do, and you notice these patterns, and you notice you're being treated in a weird, certain way, and it starts to sit wrong with you, it's maybe not the place for you.
It's not.
But I wanted to also say that I wonder, because you were saying it's kind of like people who want to go up in the company mirror these behaviours, and then they themselves start to behave in that way. But I wonder, is there like something deeper happening where they are sat down in the room with somebody higher up and they're going, oh, okay, so you're the manager now, and here's how you deal with this. And maybe they don't sit down with them and go, here's this horrible technique I have for you. It's more like, here's what you do in a certain situation, and then they go off and do that without necessarily fully understanding what they're doing. But they're like, this is the process for this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're probably right, actually.
Yeah, I wonder.
That's probably something that happens as well.
I've obviously never been higher up there to see, but...
Like, for example, in the book, another thing is that, like nobody but the very people at the top know the actual truth behind the reason why the work is being done in the company. So, those motives are, like, trickle down and people are led to believe that, well, that's just the way we do things here because that's the only way things then are going to be able to work.
Yeah.
We can't get any work done unless we behave and talk and do whatever this way.
Yeah.
So obviously the managers think that's the only way to do it. And they could very easily have been trained like that.
Yeah.
To talk like that, And
I don't mean, as I said, I don't mean trained in like a,
no,
here's a tactic you can use.
Exactly, because they're never going to give you the full truth. You're not in on that.
No.
You're not in on why.
I think a lot of people have to be in those situations, and like they're not that they have to be, I don't know, who am I to say anything, but I think people want to make sure that they have a good future. And so people will do a lot of things to make sure that they have enough money, a good future.
Yeah, they'll sacrifice a lot.
Which is so fair, because you've got to keep, things are expensive, you've got to keep the bills running.
Yeah.
Like, people have kids. I know people have to do things because they have to care for your family, but I think that there is the other conversation to be had of what's happening then to the soul, what's happening to the human, what's happening to your gut, what's happening to your intuition. So I think while we need to do those things for, certain reasons, what happens then to the human, or what happens to the human then if we do that on a large scale. And that's something that I feel like I'm seeing. I'm seeing this in like community spaces. I'm seeing this in like wellness spaces. I'm seeing this in like corners of the world where they should be safe. They should be free of those like tactics, and there should be good intention behind why people are doing things. And I think none of us are perfect, but if you do end up doing stuff like that, or unmeaningfully treating somebody like that and using those tactics, to be able to have a good look at yourself in the mirror. Yeah. And go, oh, like that wasn't okay, or I've had people in wellness spaces that I go up to and I'm like, oh, so this happened, so like, could we do this instead? And they're like, they don't want to have a conversation that makes them look at them.
Yeah.
These are people in wellness spaces,
How insane is that? It's the wellness space. It's in the name.
Yeah.
This is how deep rooted the issue is.
Yeah.
And this is how like hidden and pernicious it is, that like not even the people that are supposed to be woke, for the lack of a better word.
Woke.
Yeah. But seriously, that's how bad it is.
Yeah. And it's like, as you said, I think what makes me so upset is that it's it's usually very vulnerable people that are affected by this, and people who maybe can't say no because they're not in a circumstance to say no.
Yeah.
Or people who, like, their livelihood is threatened if they say no financially, and, So, yeah, this conversation is, like, really important to me, and it makes me really angry that, like, the world is full of that, and we're not. That is,
rightfully so,
It's so deep in the layers of humanity,
Yeah. It's like, and, like, the only thing they can do is just make sure that you don't replicate that kind of behaviour.
Yeah.
You don't treat people like that.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's in your power. Because you're not going to be able to change big, huge corporations. Like, that's just not going to happen. It's going to have to be at an individual level. Yeah.
And that goes back, I think, to a conversation that me and you have quite often. It's like, it's that piece. It's like, it always goes back to that individual piece. And I think you make such a good point at that.
Yeah.
Even in this. And I actually think I needed to hear that, because I tend to get really heated up.
You get heated up and you feel like, how am I ever going to fix the world? What can I do? Is there anything that anyone can ever do? No one can do anything to anyone else. It's like, but you do have very much control over your thoughts, over your behaviour, of what you do and what you think. And you do have that power, as much as like people tell you that you don't. Yeah. But bottom line is that you absolutely able to have control of your thoughts if you want to. You have more power than you think. You're way more powerful as an individual than you think. And if you just think about that and really, really embody that, and if I'm to do that, and you're to do that, and our friends are to do that, and our teachers and our mentors and everyone around us are to do that, that's when change happens.
Yeah. Yeah, you couldn't have said it better. I completely agree. Really ties this conversation in for me nicely is like always come back to love. And I remember when we were having that conversation, you were saying, and I actually wrote it down on paper, but I forgot the exact wording. It was like,
don't argue with dead people.
They don't have a reference back to love.
Yeah, dead people. And that's what it means to be dead. Truly not having a reference back to love. And love is God, love is spirit, love is whatever you see as like the ultimate higher truth.
Yeah.
But that love, that's what it is. If you don't have a reference back to that in everything you do and the way you move in the world, you don't argue with these people. You're not gonna convince anyone of anything that believes in that. You're not gonna get anything from it. You can't change their minds.
100%. Yeah, and so it's about knowing when to choose your battles. How it's like about doing your own, like focusing on yourself and doing your own work. You'll come across so many difficulties from like family members to like a partner, if you have a partner, like your friends or people that you're talking to. And so if you can come back to loving yourself and you can exude that outwards,
yeah,
then that's really powerful.
It's really powerful. You're never gonna get lost. You know that you're tapping into like this thing where you're not trying to con anybody, you're not trying to lie, you're not trying to like deceive, you're just coming from love. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, that really struck me. That just one line just really, like, that really sits with me. And I think it's such a beautiful way to like encapsulate even this conversation is like those evil ways of being and of manipulating people and using those tactics. Like if you can step away from that and come back in yourself and do the work and be open to working from love, then I think, yeah, that's basically saying the same thing, but I just think that's really powerful.
Yeah, you're halfway there to having it together, man. Like, you're halfway there to just getting it.
Yeah.
Like, you get it then. You get it.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing else to get but that. You win the understanding.
Yeah. And understanding of just the overall truth, I think.
That's what I mean. The
universal
understanding.
Truth.
That's the understanding.
Yeah. One of the universal truths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why not the universal truth?
Because I think there's many. I don't know what the universal truth is. I think that's like a huge thing. What is the I think love is a pretty big one. It's pretty up there.
Yeah.
But there's many, and I think many truths are revealed to people.
I'd love to know what else is there. Maybe that you came across.
Well, nothing comes to my mind right now. But I think a lot of universal truths where you have those like aha moments of like, oh wow, I didn't learn this anywhere, but like because of pattern that I'm following or the journey that I'm on.
Yeah, it reveals itself.
This reveals itself.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. It's really funny the way life works like that, where if you just do enough work and you just have the best intention with living your life and you have a good reference as to where you're coming back to, these kind of things are kind of like unlocking in you these deep understandings of the world if you're just present and aware. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of interesting.
It is, and it's like a really weird thing that's not like I'm sure it's talked about, and you can probably find it online and stuff. But it's just not a coffee table conversation with like people that you know very often, or like even on the internet. I guess I don't feel like I easily find it.
You don't easily find it. Nah, like the issue is that if you talk about these kind of things and you bring in any sort of esoteric, more like hidden information and stuff, people will just call you crazy and they'll call you delusional and be like, no, that's not even real. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I think people do talk about it, but it's not as like surface level.
Yeah, 100%. I like the conversation that we've had, but I would love in the future, at least for myself, to like ask more questions, and because I feel like we were both getting our ideas across, because we've already had a lot of these conversations.
Yeah.
So we were both just like having this conversation and like bringing other concepts into it that we've had previously conversations about.
Yeah.
But I would love in the future to sit down more and just have a conversation the way we do.
Yeah, natural.
You know, kind of get it.
Because you get the spark then. It's not the same.
The spark isn't the same.
It's
no.
not the same. And you get way more inspiration as you talk and ideas coming to your head that are new and whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, if you just have to retell them, it's like, what did I say last time? Did I say this? I don't say this. I can't even remember fully.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having this conversation and revisiting this conversation, and thank you for just having difficult conversations with me.
It's been my pleasure.
Oh, and maybe with like just 3 deep breaths, because I feel like I really need it after that.
That's one.